Hi everyone, it's Dr. Scott. So I'm going to show you guys how to use an M dash, kind of explain what an M dash is, why you use it, and how do you create one. An M dash, just so you know, it's called that because it is the exact width of an uppercase M in whatever font that you're using. So it's not a hyphen, it's an actual dash, and I'll show you how to use it. So in English, when we have like a specific noun, and let's say our specific noun is Dr. Scott, and we want to add additional information to that, there's a few levels of emphasis that we can add to that information. The lowest level is just using parentheses. Dr. Scott, professor at Shawnee State, studies writing, assessment, and rhetoric. And the way that kind of sounds when you read it, this is the way it would kind of sound. Dr. Scott, professor at Shawnee State, studies writing, assessment, and rhetoric. So it's really kind of side information that isn't essential to the sentence. What really kind of matters here is this information over here. So lowest level of emphasis, parentheses. My dissertation advisor told me that if you're putting things in parentheses, that means that you're providing your reader a bunch of information that they don't really need, so why do it anyhow? So I use these very sparingly when I'm writing my own articles and things like that. But the second level of emphasis is to use commas. Dr. Scott, comma, professor at Shawnee State, studies writing, assessment, and rhetoric. That means that information, it's still kind of important, a little bit more important than this up here. But that's the second level of emphasis. And that's where I think you guys are at right now. I think you understand that when you see that information, you can kind of just take this information out of a sentence and the sentence still makes sense. So Dr. Scott studies writing, assessment, and rhetoric. Does that make sense? Yeah, that's a sentence. So the next level of emphasis, let's say we want that information that's between the commas or between the parentheses. We want that to really stand out. There's a way to do that visually, and it's using an M dash. M dashes can be used as substitutes for commas, but you want to use them sparingly, because if you use a lot of them, it makes it sound like you're William Shatner on Star Trek, where everything is just, he just tries to emphasize every little thing, and it gets kind of exhausting to read that kind of stuff. So here's how you do it. So let's say you got Dr. Scott again. Before you hit the space bar, type hyphen, and then type the next word. Do not use the space bar yet. Dr. Scott, A, and when you hit the space bar on the A, see how that creates that longer dash right there? That's the exact width of an uppercase M in this font that I'm using, which is Calibri. So Dr. Scott, a professor at Shawnee State, hyphen, don't hit the space bar, studies, and look what happens when I hit the space bar on studies. Boom. M dash. Studies, writing, assessment, and rhetoric. There's other ways to go about doing it. I think you can set up Word to, I think there's like a Control-Alt feature to integrate it'll automatically put in an M dash. I don't use that. I use the hyphen, the double hyphen. That seems to work best for me. It's used in substitute for commas, and generally it's used in this kind of thing. You have a specific noun, you want to provide additional information about it. You want that information to stand out. It's like Dr. Scott, a professor at Shawnee State, studies writing, assessment, and rhetoric. It changes kind of the meaning there in that sense. I'm sure I've assigned this along with some kind of reading response or some kind of discussion board post, and I'm going to ask you to integrate this into your writing. Play around with that a little bit. Try using a set of M dashes in your writing. Again, you don't want to use it too much or you're going to sound like William Shatner, but they can help add some diversity to your writing. All right, any questions? Make sure you email me.